That was the key thing for Rocket. They seem to have just needed time, but now they're starting to really take it to their opponents.
Maxwell gonna hop over and look to take down Power of Evil. Missed the collateral second. That was sick. We're expecting nothing short of very clean play from G2 Esports. This is how they've stayed undefeated for so long. Here, Syncroft just wants to get something. He just wants something, but he can't get it.
This is the best Rocket we've seen in years.
It's calm, it's collected, it is dominating. This is the Unicorns of Love style.
And welcome to the European LCS, coming to you live from Berlin. We're almost at the finish line of the spring split, and with the finals in Hamburg on the horizon, every win matters. Earlier, we saw the fans loading in a lot of the Love Hurts crew. As always, it's always Valentine's Day when the Unicorns of Love are playing and setting up on stage. Bulls. Well, Andy, you weren't with me at the desk yesterday. How are you feeling? Excited for the matches?
I'm good. I'm recovering on the back end of a cold, but I'm feeling great. How are you, Ifya?
I'm good. I'm good. You do sound, you know, you got to take care of yourself. The playoffs are coming, so
yes, it's
we got to be
extremely important. Drink plenty of fluids, ladies and
gentlemen. Everyone actually drink plenty of fluids, a lot of water, and sleep enough.
I'm also here. Yesterday we saw H2K defeat Origin 2-0 to lock a top 2 group spot in Group B.
See, you can't even do it right.
I don't have my glasses on. I don't have my glasses on.
Right. So H2K did beat Origin 2-0 yesterday and locked a top 2 spot in Group B. That's how you do it, by the way. And well, going into playoffs, a lot of questions we had is, you know, what does H2K look like? What do they have to shore up? So, Vedius, what were your impressions of the team's performance yesterday?
In my eyes, it seemed that H2K yesterday weren't taking things as seriously as they could have. I think that there were a few noticeable mistakes in their playstyle, but I think it is forgivable given the opponent that they're playing up against, and I don't expect them to be playing like this come playoff time.
Yeah, at the same time, though, we have to wonder if it was a slightly better team than Origin, they would have simply closed out on the Baron play and hit H2K with a defeat. Yes, you can come away from the series saying, you know what, yeah, it was a little close, but in the end we didn't lose. But I'm a little bit worried, especially for their early game. This is 3 weeks in running where Jankos overcommits to a play, you know, wants a bit too much and ends up like dying early or giving away something. And this was a team that was heralded for their first blood ganks, you know, their early objectives, and they seem very shaky in the early game, especially when it comes to kind of jumping out of a play. You know, they overcommit and they just keep committing.
They keep committing and get that ball rolling. And Syncroft had a great series for OG. He's turning out to be actually quite the shining star on that lineup going into promotion. So we will see what happens there. And in our second series of the day yesterday, Misfits, they swept the Giants 2-0. Though we have kind of similar remarks to their performance. It wasn't as super cut and clean. And we talked to the coach Hussein after, who said, well, yeah, we're going through a bit of a dip and up and down, but that's normal. But you know, they have to shore it up before playoffs. The
important thing is that they're able to climb out of the dip. You have to make sure that your ladder is structurally secure enough to be able to climb out, because if it's not, you're going to end up collapsing and you're not going to meet the expectations that you put on yourself coming into playoffs.
Yeah, it has to be a dip, not a swan dive. But overall, I think for Misfits here, if you look at the roadmap, coming in as a new team, second place in the group, some great late game plays in a couple of weeks, working on that early game, standout players here and there. I think overall they can be happy with their progression so far.
Definitely, the project is developing well, and we'll be following that up. And with their win over Origin, H2K, I said, have secured top 2 in Group B. But to take first place, it is still possible, but they need a little bit of help from Vitality, because the Unicorns of Love secure first place with a win over Vitality, and Splice are locked in third place. Now, 4 matchups remain in the EULCS 2017 Spring Split. The Unicorns of Love to start the day with that match versus Vitality, and then G2 versus Rocket. I never thought I'd say it, but I'm super looking forward to this matchup. Is it possible, guys?
It's definitely possible. I think that recently we weren't expecting Rocket to be able to upset Misfits. They get themselves the 2-0. G2, they've been looking strong, but I have a lot of faith that Rocket can get another upset.
It would be quite the story. If Rocket, out of all teams, would break this undefeated streak from G2, I think Rocket management tuned in somewhere and was like, you know what, we started the undefeated streak, we will end it too. So that's definitely good for them.
We'll see what happens. A tall order for Roccat, but hey, I believe. But first, this afternoon, the Unicorns, they are back to take on Vitality after defeating Splice on Thursday. A very hype matchup and on all the way to 3 games, but Unicorns of Love outplayed Splice in game 2 and 3 at least. They seem very comfortable heading into playoffs, and they keep probably that first place spot.
It's nice to see from the Unicorns they've been working very hard on improving the early game and being able to get themselves lead, seeing Xerxes playing more aggressively. And again, we're still seeing fantastic team fighting from the Unicorns of Love. Their ability to force fights and take advantage of the weaknesses in Splice's composition was fantastic to see from the line.
Yeah, well, the story we were following this split was like, is this the best kind of performance we've seen from them in the regular split? Definitely yes, and now it's just a question, can they translate it into playoffs?
Yeah, and they're also very proud of, their consecutive playoff appearances every single time, so they're definitely looking to leave a mark here and maybe get more, than just those third-place matches. I think the Unicorns have their eyes set on a final, and they definitely want to get there.
Definitely do. But first, they have to beat Vitality to get their eyes on that first spot. And Vitality, well, they've started to let their hair down a bit since securing their place in the league for summer 2017. They are in that safe spot. Versus H2K, they had a blitzcrank game. They were up 12K at 25 minutes in game 2. So they're definitely a bit more relaxed, and it seems to be working for them.
I love that you can see from this Vitality lineup who was so inactive in the mid game. So, I feel like stressed. When we were watching them, you could feel the nerves. Everybody was so afraid of failure that nobody was actually playing to win, right? And then now we actually get to see this kind of unleashed Vitality, and we see how big of a component stress and pressure is for some of these teams, and why putting in more hours just playing the game may not be the best strategy or reward kind of approach for your coach. You really want to get your players in as stress-free of an environment as you can. And combining that with the fact that they're now playing the Unicorns could make for a great game. So we have on one hand, we have Vitality who no longer have to care, and they can play completely unleashed. On the other side, we have Unicorns who have not always cared too much anyways about what people thought were the right champions to play, the right metagame to play in, the right playstyle to approach. So we could get a very spectacular match right now.
I hope so, at least. And they can play spoiler. If they manage to win, then that first place for Unicorns of Love is not yet locked. It depends on the H2K match versus Splice. So we will see what happens. We saw the Unicorns, as said, the Zillion for Hillesang has been in there. They've been having Ivern again for Xerxes, going back to his roots, literally. He played a bit of Rengar, and it seems to be working out for them, preparing into playoffs.
I want to see a more successful Blitzcrank. I know that he did bring it out last time to not as much expectation as he perhaps would have liked, but I still think that it was an interesting pick. We saw the Swain a few weeks ago against H2K as well. I'm really enjoying the different approaches that Vitality are taking. And I think that when you have two dynamic teams like the Unicorns and Vitality, we are expecting, I think there'll be a lot of new and interesting picks.
Personally, I just want to see Kalista on Steelback, because I think he can actually play the champion too. And if you're laning with Hachani, who has this habit of overextending, and he doesn't want to return on himself. You can become Pokemon Master, get back in your ball, boy, listen to me, and now you can go back out there. If you want to jump in twice, that's your choice, but I think Kalista's the pick for Steelback to solve the Hachani problem.
All right, let's see if it happens. And two of the most adventurous teams in the league meet on the Rift as we send it over to our casters for Game 1.
Thank you very much, Shucks. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tibbers, Quick Shot Henry.
Sorry, I'm ready.
Where's Annie?
You were meant to dress as Annie. Did you not get my DM?
Dude, I told you, you were Annie, I was Tibbers, because I got the roar. Anyways, it's Slumber Party.
This is awkward. Well, if you're playing on EU West or EU Nordic and East this weekend, you'll hit the Rift with certain champions. You'll earn points towards in-game rewards and IRL prizes, as well as a server-wide party IP weekend. Hit up eu.leagueoflegends.com for all the details, and maybe it won't quite be so awkward if you check the details before we go
Luckily
live.
for us, there's a bunch of people in the audience wearing onesies as well. So shout out to everybody in the audience, and I hope you guys are playing Slumber Party at home. Happy April Fools. Let's get back to the Rift, shall we? Because on the blue side, for game number 1 today, it is Vitality with Cambo Shard in the top lane, Joku in the jungle, Nukeduck in the mid, Steelback and Hachani ADC and support, and their coach, Irian.
Facing Vitality, it's a mythical creature on the red side. It is the Unicorns of Love. In the top lane, Vizichachi. In the jungle is Xerxes. Mid lane, Exile. AD carry, Samek. Support, Hillesang. And their coach is Sheepy.
And looking at stage, I can see team mascot and manager and support staff remain. It's the first time I felt like I'm outdressing him on a broadcast. I've finally brought something with a bit more pizzazz than those Unicorns' hooves and boots. But talking about the game, things are going to get a bit heated here today, Stress.
Yeah.
Let's think about Vitality. Do you expect fun champions? I mean, they don't have anything to play for. They're safe in summer. They've run that Blitzcrank, they've run that Swain.
Yes, they gave us a couple of fun champions, but at the same time, they also performed very well against H2K. In that second game, we're going to have a look at some of those metrics that Vitality were outperforming H2K in a game on later on. And I think as much as it is a relief for Vitality that they're safe for summer, they absolutely have shown that when the pressure is off, they can play with some of our top teams.
And that's a problem for Unicorns, because Unicorns need to win this series to guarantee first. There is still something on the line here for UOL. As we jump into picks and bans, it is patch 7.6. Galio will not be permitted for selection through this week and all of playoffs here on the European LCS. And we'll take a look at some of those Vitality drafts that were quite fun, you know, versus H2K as Swain top, Echo mid. They ran the Blitzcrank for Hichani. I really want to see those again, as no surprises here, targeted bans towards Xerxes.
And Xerxes has played the Ivern himself, so Unicorns of Love are playing these picks that still comfort them. That's what they've done, especially game 1 against Splice. They picked a composition, Orianna, Caitlyn, these big picks that they play time and time again. And Unicorns of Love have drafted differently to a lot of teams. Still within the meta, but more change up in that priority than other teams have gone for.
All right, let's see what they decide to ban out in this last rotation here. It is Elise, so 5 junglers taken off the table.
Well, this is where you start wondering whether Xerxes is going to pull out the Warwick again, see if that's his direction. Will it be the support here? Malzahar is available if they want it.
And I think important to note, Lee Sin, not played by Xerxes, all split long. You know, one of those junglers that you feel like every single jungle player should have in his wheelhouse. Gragas is somewhat of a flex. Can go jungle, can go top, and we'll see how this draft plays out.
Yeah, exactly. I like this from Vitality. They now have a lot of ability to flex. It puts pressure on Unicorns of Love now in the phase 2 ban setting to target out a role even further. But for Unicorns, they end up getting their hands on a couple of other big picks. Exile's been playing this LeBlanc. Even though the nerfs came through weeks and weeks and weeks ago, he has been putting up good numbers on this carry champion, and Unicorns of Love have looked unstoppable.
Yeah, they have. I mean, Exile's just had a really good split. Yeah. You know, performed very well with a lot of support from the rest of the squad. Visit Chachi, most likely going to play this Rumble. Interesting, by the way, Chachi's only played a Rumble in Nautilus for the last 3 series. I guess literally just Rumble, Nautilus, Nautilus, Rumble. He's really sort of focusing on those 2 champs.
But at the same time, Unicorns say anything you can flex, we can flex better. With Xerxes' 2 games of Rumble in the jungle on record. Again, now it kind of throws a lot of things up into the air. As Unicorns of Love, no priority so far on the bot lane, but here it comes. It's not the Kalista that the Crepo was wanting for Steelback, but it is a lane-dominant pick, and I wonder whether they'll end up pairing this with another one of these supports that can pressure out. Are you kidding me?
Oh, that is amazing. By the way, when Shaka was locked in, Joko looked over to the caster disc and had a gigantic grin on his face.
I'm getting wiggly on this one, Trevor, because the one team in Europe that has played Unicorns, that has played Shaco is the Unicorns of Love, and they paired it with a Thresh, because you would split push on Shaco all the way back in the 2015 spring playoffs. They were upsetting teams like H2K with these oddball picks. Now Vitality want to do it against the Unicorns. Watch out if that Thresh gets locked in phase 2 for Vitality. May very well get banned out, because there are still 3 Unicorns that were in that lineup on stage in Sheepy, Chachi, and Hillisang. They know this plan.
They do indeed, and of course, Shaco at the moment is just a monster in solo queue. He's been kicking my butt when I've been playing. For Unicorns, do they ban more junglers now? I guess no, because they need to lock one in. Lee Sin still available, Warwick still available, and instead they're going to prioritize the support picks here towards Hichani.
So Shen now off the board as well, as that takes it away from Chachi. That's Vitality saying that we're expecting Rumble to be in the jungle, and that Unicorns are going to try and take that last pick towards that top lane.
That'll be interesting, actually, because, I mean, Nautilus is still up. Another support ban taken away, so Hichani's Tahm Kench is gone. What else would you run? I mean, you've talked about the Thresh. What alternatives will Vitality need here? Because they need a mid laner and a support.
Yeah, they need something that's going to buy a lot of time, something that can disengage from mid lane. Normally, Orianna is a good pick from that because it's not necessarily disengage, it's more the threat of a shockwave pushes people back quite a way. So for Vitality, there are still a lot of questions here because it's not very often you find yourself with a Shaco in competitive play, but I'll get more into how the Unicorns' mentality over Shaco actually was explained to me by Sheepy a long, long time ago, and it's very different from solo queue.
Okay, very interesting. We'll discuss the Shaco and how he impacts the game once we actually load up. For now, Samuk's most likely going to lock in this Varus. Still also very strong in lane. Wave pushing power, and we've seen Varus not necessarily disappear quite as much as we were anticipating or expecting, but for Samuk's, this kind of suits his playstyle, right? Strong lane, wave clear.
Are they really?
I don't know. I mean, remember, Vitality, they're locked in 4th, right? They're coming back in summer. Vitality are unlocked. We have Shaco and Twisted Fate.
Okay, that's the other side. You don't need to disengage mid laner because your top laner is Gragas. That was what I was overlooking. They do. Oh, wow. Vitality are going full try and carry on the side lanes and somehow kill or defend mid lane. I don't really know how the Camille ties into it. We'll have to look at what Hachani's doing later on. Obviously, that ultimatum will help out. Now the Unicorns, what are they going to tie it all together with? Top lane is the likely pickup here.
Oh, man. Okay, so we're expecting Xerxes to take that rumble into the jungle, hence the Shen and the Renekton being banned out. As we mentioned, Visage, nope, we've pivoted. It's a Hecarim. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is April Fool's Day, and we have Shaco, Camille, Twisted Fate, Hecarim, all in the same game. Now, I am expecting Cabo and Hachani to swap here. However, they could just pull another fast one and put Gragas support.
There's always a couple of games a split where these top laners like Gragas have been seen in support. Teams try Maokai support every now and again. The theory is there that the kit is good enough on its own, like the Camille, to be able to just play that out. And now Camille into Rumble, we've heard people talk about that. Last seconds on the swap, and it does lock that Camille is top lane.
Support Gragas. What on earth is happening? Okay, so 7.6. It is the second last day of games here in EULCS. I mean, that's a gigantic smile on Arian's face. And Sheepy, he's playing for first seed. If UOL lose this series and H2K win, there is a possibility that those will swap.
Sheepy's like, this is what it's been feeling like for the enemy for the last 2 years of our existence. Shakes the hand of his coach, says, maybe you bested me on this pick and ban if you can get this strategy to work. Heavy side lane presence here for Vitality.
There is indeed. Unicorns of Love. They've got some initiation tools with this Hecarim and the Rumble Ultimate together. Ladies and gentlemen, jump onto Twitter. Hashtag VIT win or hashtag UOL win. This is the craziest composition we've seen all split long, and it was bested by the opponents in the very same game. Let's take a look at how they handle it.
I'm ready for this.
Crowd is hyped. You can hear the noises. The Unicorns of Love, the Love Hurts crew out in force. And Vitality here to play spoiler. They are unlocked and unleashed.
Oh, this is a fun one. The irony of having Shaco up against the Unicorns. Joko is egging the crowd on at this point. I mean, okay, so Shaco, seen a lot in solo queue. The reason Shaco does very well in solo queue is because nobody really plays around his ability to sneak into lanes and set up boxes, and then once you get 1 or 2 kills, you end up just snowballing the entire game because people don't know how to play against it. It's a lot like Evelynn for that factor. Whereas when the Unicorns played it all the way back in Season 5, the 2015 season, what they were doing with it was saying it was an incredibly good late game split pusher because so few champions could actually deal with the amount of damage that was being output. That was a very different meta, but Unicorns, they don't really have a front line, so anybody stuck in a 1v1 duel with Joko, if he gets late into this game, could get killed quite quickly, and that is not a position that they want to be in. But this is the start for Shaco. You box down on the camp. Just get that first camp, you can easily move to the next set of jungle, and you can see already 2 wards out on the bottom side from the Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, and of course taking a step above the just the damage potential that Joker can put down, the mobility. With that Deceive, with the Jack in the Box, all the tools available to Joko to get in and out safely. Very, very clever play if Vitality can make it work, because, stress, the thing that matters a lot here is Vitality's ability to communicate and coordinate the side lane pressure, right? Of course, we were wearing Tibbers onesies, which are exceptionally warm in the middle of spring in Berlin, so we have to drop those right now. Those we're going to turn into swimming pools.
Are you giving the game away?
I am indeed. I am indeed.
You've never seen somebody wearing like a vest and a tie come out of a onesie. I wish that we actually caught that on camera, but nevertheless, just in case we wanted to do a quick change act.
It wasn't particularly elegant, so I'm glad that it wasn't, actually. But take a look at this. Already some shenanigans from Joko up in the top lane. He's hopped over the wall with that deceive. Gonna come in right behind Visit Chachi.
Here we go.
Possibility for first blood. Literally like every solo queue game ever. Visit Chachi's flashed already. Red buff and ignite is ticking away. One more hit. First blood to Shaco.
Well, we said that Shaco can be played in different ways, but if the Rumble's pushing up that heavily that early on, well, you're gonna get punished because Shaco just comes right over the wall. Ignite on the jungler is the other thing that a lot of top laners in competitive won't be used to. You suddenly get top lane, get the first blood. That's normally what ends the game, and the top laner rage quits. So I don't think Chachi is going to quite be on that mentality.
Well, luckily for Unicorns, it landed in Joko's hands. He's already jumped into the mid lane, thrown out a little bit of pressure onto Exile. I'm quickly going to look at the summoner spells. One exhaust on the side of Hylissang. I think that's valuable against the burst damage from Nukeduck's TF later in the game, as well as Camille. And of course, then it's Ignite barriers across the rest. Exile trading heavily here with Nukeduck.
Yeah, that's one problem that Vitality will end up having to deal with, is the fact that they've got no exhaust for this LeBlanc. The reason they're carrying Ignite is because Hachani's going to look for a body slam flash all in a little bit later on in this laning phase. If they manage to find the opportunity, you hit it with the Ignite. Lucian dashes in, double tap passive as many times as you possibly can, and suddenly you already get that kill out of the laning phase. So Vitality are looking very aggressive in this early game. Looking forward to seeing where they can actually carry that on. Now Joko comes bot lane. Can he get onto Samox?
Indeed. There's the body slam.
That was
flash.
it.
Hachani finds a target, but there's support from Xerxes. He's looking to rampage down Joko. Picks up one with the Q, and Unicorns are on the board.
That's more like the Shakos in solo queue, unfortunately. Very fragile early on, and once you queue forward, queue in, there's no flash to get you out. And Joko, yes, they got the connection between the flash body slam and everything that came through, but Vitality didn't have enough survivability in that situation, and Joko ends up dying, drops over the buffs down, I believe. Xerxes now does have them, yes.
Yeah, refresh the red buff at the very least.
Blue buff had expired by that point.
And Xerxes on basically the team's spirit animal in some ways, as far as League of Legends is concerned. I don't really think it's actually comparable, a Unicorn and a Centaur, but...
If he was playing Arcade Hecarim, that would be a little bit closer.
It would be a little closer, yeah, actually it would.
So here was the body slam flash. Unfortunately, that is a Malzahar. So you tried going aggressive when that shield was up. May very well have gone in Vitality's favor. Didn't catch that the first time as we were looking at the path for Joko into the lane, but Malzahar is clearly a good pick into this type of play from bottom lane. You just absorb that first hit. And suddenly, Vitality, from what was looking like a great start to the game, now have to answer some questions in the bottom lane.
Yeah, they do. And a few questions elsewhere, of course. Joko's Shaco, currently very far behind in CS, jungle creeps, but because he picked up first blood, is even on gold with Xerxes. It is Shaco, right? It's a hard A.
I say Shaco, but you know, people go back and forth on that. But Xerxes got that inflated CS from doing Raptors and Krogs, and he's just like running around off the small creeps. Now, Ward did just die, so Joko spotted in the top lane. This is where you can kind of start to track the Shaco a little bit. He's not snowballing so heavily that he's appearing before you get wards out. That's one of the problems that Unicorns of Love have already overcome by getting that first kill.
Yeah, going to work in favor of UOL, especially because both Hecarim as well as Shaco really want to get going in the early stages. Talking about getting going, Hachani's making his way around the map. Let's look at Hachani and Hylissang. One particular aspect of the game is something that we talk about in terms of isolated deaths. How many times do these respective players get killed by the enemy with no support from their teammates? You know, no one within range. And you can see the number of deaths. Now, Hachani, kind of famous for this. Going on those hero plays, you can see him this time around maybe taking a safer route to play some vision in UOL's jungle. But Hilly, no stranger to giving up these deaths, especially during the middle few weeks of the split.
Yeah, that was the rough few weeks that Unicorns of Love had, especially in the early game, struggling against some of the better teams where Hylissang, sometimes he takes these risky paths to ward, and better teams have started to actually figure that out and catch him out. And once that happens, Unicorns of Love end up falling a little further behind. So I'm interested to see whether Hylissang is going to be able to do that in this game, whether Hachani and this Shaker will have enough control over the jungle, just the fear of Hylissang running into somebody, that he doesn't go out aggressively on his own and end up getting killed. But it has been a problem for the Unicorns.
Yeah, it really has. And it was Hachani coming back after that small stint with AOD that maybe helped Vitality move towards a direction. You know, you don't know the value of someone on your team until you lose them in certain circumstances, and Hachani brought some leadership to the Vitality squad.
Yeah, he really did. And it was a surprising amount as well, because especially after how poorly it went the first time around with Hachani dying so much, I think a lot of people were surprised, but it sounded like a lot of the problems internally with the team, whether it was in-game or out-of-game stuff with Hachani, seemed to be rectified.
Red card! Who's going to win the trade? Back and forth Ignite, but the minions are helping out.
Joko's here.
Exile's going to look for a distortion over the wall. Not available, and Joko picks it up. Even with a red card, Nukeduck got away with that one.
Yeah, Nukeduck didn't quite get the card, but has the rock, paper, scissors win on barrier into Ignite there. Was able to survive through so much damage. And Nukeduck stays alive. Joko ends up picking up the kill. Exile had nothing he could do, was hoping that cooldown would come up in time, but not to be. Exile pretty much connected with everything to start that off, and Nukeduck got away with it.
He did indeed. We'll see how long he can keep getting away with it. Xerxes power farming like a monster at the moment. Equal CS to respective mid laners, level 7 to Joko's level 6. Got access to that Onslaught of Shadow, so I'm looking forward to the dive opportunities, like Onslaught plus Equalizer.
Plus TF going top without that. Chachi, oh, here's the ultimatum. There's no minions here. Everybody's just coming anyway.
Gold card comes down. Deceive will swap tower aggro. Visit Chachi survives because Vitality, they did not go in together on that one.
Yeah, that wasn't the best orchestrated dive here, as they used a lot of ultimates up front. Now they're going to try again.
Oh, Vizichachi decides to stick around. This time, Vitality pick up a clean close. They get the kill, but it's at the cost of tower first blood, because UOL will secure it down bottom.
Yeah, it will go over to the Unicorns first, but that was the second time that Vitality had tried to go in on Chachi, so a lot was used. Vitality, will they end up getting this tower? Yes, they will, up in the top lane. And it's kind of a difficult spot for Vitality because the minion wave hadn't pushed up. They didn't really want to go first because Cabochard knew he would have to start tanking the turret, then drop tower aggro in order to be able to take the kill without dropping anything. I want to take a moment, though, and look at why the heck are him. Because that's one thing that people might be looking at and say, okay, we had a lot of jungle bans, but why didn't you go for something else? Why wasn't there another pick that you could have gone for? Well, Xerxes wants engaged potential, and the only champions he's played other than, like, the Zac that have engaged potential would be something like a Hecarim. Rek'Sai doesn't offer enough in that standing. So now the aim of the game here is when Vitality go to the side lanes, much like Splyce tried, they want to go aggressive on either the people out on the side lane or steal back if they can catch him through this Gragas ult.
That's going to be difficult, though. There is a fair amount of tools that Unicorns need to get through, but fortunately, very good range for Equalizer. Pretty good engage potential for Hecarim, and of course, Exile will be looking for the flanks if Unicorns can keep it up. Good setup here for Vision, and it looks like UOL, they've swapped up to that top lane, obviously moved Vizichachi away, and now Unicorn's going to look to take down that top outer turret.
And that's where this Hecarim is like a budget version of what Rengar was doing. A lot of mobility, a lot of engage potential to get on somebody that's out in a side lane. So I don't think it's going to be as strong unless they can continue to snowball off the kills. But honestly, the fact that Xerxes is ahead is a great thing for now.
Yeah, you have to actually look at the gold difference because, yes, jungle creeps mean different things, but Xerxes currently has the highest amount of gold on his entire team. 4,300. That's the same amount as Nukeduck, and we'll expand on that in a moment. Cabochard's going very aggressive. He dodges the ultimate. Samux is caught down in place. Xerxes throws down the Onslaught of Shadows, but Hilly's going to be the next target.
Oh,
Equalizer burns down Vitality. That's a double kill for Joko. As in the background, Hachani's taken down. It's getting crazy and messy. It's a 2 for 2, and Exile almost gets taken up by Nukeduck.
Oh, does he know he's on a ward here? Nukeduck, no flash, but look at the ultimate timer. Wherever Exile runs, he has to make sure he gets enough distance away. Oh, Joko gets it anyway.
Yeah, gets it with the Ignite, actually.
That's the second one he's got on Exile, just walking in and igniting.
5-1-1 on Shaco, and they're not done yet. Nuketax looking for the gold card, connects onto Visit Chachi, but the overheating Flame Spitter does a lot of damage. Joko's running out of mana. Here comes the hook shot into the tactical sweep, precision protocol, and Cabochard is on the board.
Well, Vitality, they were going aggressive from minute 1 in this game, and it has finally started to pay off. Look, as you said, the lead, 5-1 on this Shaco for Joko. That's surprisingly difficult to say.
Yeah.
But honestly, we'll see whether Joko can carry this matchup. He's not going for the all-in glass cannon, I'm going to 1v9 this game, Shaco. He's gone for Cinderhulk, looking to go tankier and try and push out on the side lane later. Here they go aggressive. Great dodge on the ultimate, as you said, by Cabochard on that. And there's enough damage out of Vitality to keep going throughout this. Chachi normally would be such a fearsome presence to get into this fight. And yes, it does start the fight off well for Vitality. There's the Illuminati boxes set up. Just hold Xerxes a little bit in place for a while. And Joko, with the tricksy way around the fight, comes back in and ends up getting more kills at the end.
There is literally no way to go super serious in terms of commentary when you have these types of champions, especially when it's a 5-1-2 Shaco. I mean, this is literally what it feels like in solo queue, isn't it?
But this is when the Shaco's on the enemy team. Like, right now, if this is how it feels like, we would be unicorns.
I'm looking at a unicorns-heavy audience here, and this Shaco is the enemy team for the crowd here in Berlin. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind.
There's one guy dressed as Shaco in the audience that is a Vitality supporter for now.
For now. He's wearing UOL colors, though, so that's problematic. But the one thing I think that is important to note, Stress, even though, yes, Vitality are so far up in kills, they're not smashing in CS, so they're actually even in gold. And I think if you add up the potential teamfight power of Rumble, Hecarim, Varus, theoretically, in those scenarios, I think I prefer UOL's comp.
Oh, right. Yeah, if there's ever like a grouped fight where it's head-on, absolutely Unicorns of Love would be coming off better around that. But they obviously have to deal with the disengage from Hachani. You can see him around this mid lane trying to just play defensively. Now Joko trying to come up to the side lane again. This is where he's going to spend a lot of time. That was a rough ward from Joko. Thought he'd get it over the wall.
If we see him do it again, we'll call it a Joko ward. But when you see it a few times, failed. Although I'm glad you bring up Vision. Yesterday, we were talking on broadcast how the bottom 4 teams in the EULCS actually warded the most, with Vitality being one of the highest. We'll talk about that in a second. Xerxes the target. He gets locked in. The Hextech ultimatum. The barrel splits up UOL. And finally, Xerxes goes down. Joko's sitting on the front line with that hallucinate. Is going to get popped along with his own life. And the Illuminati save no one. It's jungler for jungler.
Jungler for jungler. You can see Unicorns of Love weren't quite set up as a team to take that. Chachi's TP wasn't available. He was trying to run down from the top lane. But Vitality's still able to make these proactive plays, and it's a close game between these two. Like, this is quite an enjoyable setup for the beginning of this series. Like, I'm glad to see again Vitality, despite the fact that yes, they're playing some unorthodox picks, they're actually playing them out quite well as they go on to Xerxes. Xerxes not tanky enough to be able to survive through this yet. And then the Boxes actually do a good job of keeping Samux back away from the rest of the fight.
Luckily, Vitality are disengaged. And I think one thing that I missed, Steelback wasn't with the team. All right, so Samux was sitting with all of the action in front of hammering away, and Steelback was all the way in the bottom lane. Cabochard, no ultimate available to him, only the Triforce, big minion wave, so I thought maybe he fancies a shot, but not just yet.
There has been a significant change in the demeanor of Vitality this week of play. And it's something that, unfortunately, I don't think is easy to notice unless you're here in the studio. But before the games, they're laughing, joking, 1v1ing, everything's jovial, very happy. Much different to how they normally take the stage. And everything seems to be just on a lighter, more positive note from them. And with it, they're playing with this freedom of, okay, it's Shaco, right? They're playing picks that are unorthodox and against... Maybe if they were trying in the most clean-cut way, might not work so well, but Vitality have been playing very well.
I think it is important to note, though, when you take those... Here's what the capability is, even with an unorthodox comp and champions. how does the team replicate that earlier in a split?
Right.
And that's the real trick, is finding these impressive / interesting performances, depending on your point of view.
Yeah, and I think they are impressive in the sense that you can clearly see, as you said, when the pressure is off. But unfortunately, you can't just pretend the pressure's off, right? If you're playing for your career in the LCS, especially if you're at the bottom side of the table, you can't just go, okay, today I'm going to play like there's no limits.
Yep, it's true. But I guess unlocked Vitality is very entertaining indeed. Steelback takes a gigantic burst of damage as Exile's able to escape with his life, thanks to that distortion, and Vitality take another tower. It looks like it's going to be evened out. Look, there's still not a gigantic advantage here for Vitality. They're even on towers, they're even on gold. Now, Vitality have an unanswered objective in their first dragon.
Yeah, there's the Ocean Drake going over. We'll assist them a little on this split push as we go later into the game. I want to take a moment to touch on what Nukeduck's actually built. This is something we started seeing a little while back, where you start with the Rod of Ages on Twisted Fate. The old build where you'd get Lich Bane and you'd auto down turrets, but he wants to be able to survive against Exile, trade some of this health and mana away, and make sure he can sustain through the initial burst, because from that, he knows if everything's on cooldown, he can just end up taking Exile out of the lane.
Yeah, and I think also the amount of burst damage on the rest of the UOL squad as well. You know, Hecarim, Rumble, all very powerful tools here for UOL. We're approaching 20 minutes into the game, and as you can see on the graphic, all right, Hilly, he might be close enough to Xerxes for that to not count as an isolated death. We'll have to double check at the end of the game. But yeah, 114 CS at 15 minutes. That's the highest CS at 15 of the split so far. Joko even smites away the blue buff.
That one wasn't particularly like Hilly overextending. He was on his side of the rift with the mid tower still up, but Vitality were preparing for this play that is coming. Body Slam Flash and a Cask is available if they want to go behind the tower. Obviously that is dangerous, and they're also buying time for Camille in the top lane. LeBlanc Clone comes out just to try and get a little bit of you know, deception going, try and distract Vitality, but Hilly face checks in. It is a little riskier than I first thought. Didn't see the rewards weren't there for Unicorns of Love, but yeah, Hylissang, solo death again, add one to the tally.
Yeah, add one to the tally, unfortunate. But Vitality, they're even with UOL as we're going to 20 minutes, and it's a very unconventional comp. So now, let's see the Joko Cabo split push, right? I feel like the 1-3-1 with the Lucian Twisted Fate, that's pretty good mid-wave clear, or I suppose you can throw Twisted Fate in a side lane. I mean, there's multiple champions that can play side lane here.
Yeah, the old thing that Twisted Fate used to be very good at was snowballing side lanes. So you'd play him in the mid lane, so you have a lot more of the map to come to, because unlike Shen, obviously he's limited with a maximum radius on his ult, but that's the thing, is Vitality have kind of got 3 split pushes.
Yes.
The other thing they can use is Shaco as, if they use Camille and Twisted Fate on the side lane, is if Shaco's in the jungle and kind of roaming around, catching anybody that moves from lane to lane, that's another option, because he's strong enough that he can take on almost anybody on the map.
Yes, especially with that Cinder Hulk as well as the Titanic Hydra. Going to be playing a lot of favorites into keeping his survivability up in team fights. And it looks like there's a lot of pressure on these mid towers. Both teams want to knock down that last outer turret, but Nukeduck is not backed away from the bottom lane yet. Hourglass and that Rod of Ages, he's going to keep dancing between bottom lane and mid lane. It looks like he's making his way up now.
And that's because his level 2 ult is enough that he can come into the side of a fight. He's not necessarily looking to get in behind. He will end up dying, although does have the Zhonya's, so maybe we'll see the fabled Messiah play come in, just hit Zhonya's right as you arrive. Everybody gets everything thrown at him. There's a couple of ults that could go that way.
They could indeed. Joko takes some damage from those ethereal chains, and Exile is going to be at least poking down the Vitality front line, but not a huge amount of damage. I mean, Joko's over 2,000 HP, and Unicorns continue to commit. There's the Mimic Chains onto Nukeduck, holding onto the gold card. Nobody's in range yet. And Unicorns going a little bit more of this 1-4 style. Haven't really responded on the side lane to put pressure back on UOL. And we just keep fighting around this outer turret over and over and over.
Yeah, and that's what Unicorns of Love were doing up against Splice, was always trying to find ways to engage when Splice were trying to split push with the cannon. it hasn't quite been so successful this game. Now they want to go aggressive on Caboshot.
All right, Xerxes going to be the target. Cabo gets bursted down quite low. Exile's forced to run away, and Hachani sets up the kill for Cabo. Exile flashed out the barrel.
And here's the difference between the comp that Vitality are running and the one that Splyce had is Vitality. They got the Twisted Fate to get there in time to assist very quickly. Splyce did have Tom Kench, but it was too slow. Now they want to go aggressive under the tower. Healer-Sang's coming.
All right, Joko's clone is caught out. Nukeduck will go down to Exile. Not just yet. Hourglass buys some time. Ignite takes down Hilly. Body Slam follows forward, and Exile's dropped by Cabo. The clone of Joko once again popping those traps, and that opens up the tower. It's a 3,000 gold lead for Vitality.
And this time the Unicorns struggle to deal with Vitality regrouping in the top side, and this has been a great game so far from what Vitality have wanted to do. A couple of hiccups here and there, but honestly, they've been able to push lanes, get objectives. Finally, Unicorns get that mid tower down for themselves, but look at where Vitality are. They're already on this Baron. They have a lot of damage, but have to be careful. They're not particularly tanky.
No, they're not, and the chain of corruption is spreading. Baron is enlisted to help out the Unicorns of Love. That's a shutdown kill into Joko and Cabo. They're dropped. There's at least one back for the Vitality team, as Xerxes gets his third of the fight. Now turns his attention to Hachani. Vizichachi's overheating is over. And look at that rampage over and over and over. Devastating charge was lined up as well. Ace for the Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, Hachani got blocked going over the wall, and Vitality got a little greedy, and it's going to turn all the way back in favor of the Unicorns. It had been such a good setup out of Vitality, and then they tried to get the Baron for themselves. Not enough health. Unicorns of Love have nobody to stop them getting this Baron, and everything seems to have steadied in favor of the Power Ponies.
Oh my word. All of that build-up and that action, and Vitality just get crushed underneath the hooves of the UOL.
Yeah, Nukeduck was low to start this one off. Hits the gold card, but the Zhonya's turns Chachi golden and in place anyway. Caboshot ends up falling. Steelback doesn't have enough damage to do it himself. He was trying desperately to just micro this fight out and got quite close, actually. Maybe if it had a little more time to get damage out, if Hachani had been able to maybe have another body slam if it was available. We're into another fight.
Oh, we are indeed. Dragon was picked up by Vitality, and Healer-Sang caught again, somewhat out of position. His team simply not there to defend. And Baron is up. Joko jumps onto Chachi. Why are Unicorns so split up? Samix is locked inside the ultimatum. He may take down Cabo with him. Samix is still the target, survives long enough for the Unicorns to reply. Onslaught of Shadows is available for Xerxes. Can he throw it down onto multiple members? Doesn't even need it. Just manages to trot across the river. Now all of a sudden Chachi's the target. Gold card pops him. Nukeduck uses the hourglass to get away from Xerxes' ultimate. We're gonna need another play-by-play because now Unicorns are diving. Hachani gets popped, bopped. Nukeduck slaughtered where he stands, and Unicorns get another ace.
Xerxes playing, as you said, the mascot of the team, has got so much damage, takes so little. 8, 2, and 5 on the board. He just walked right into the fight and galloped right over Vitality because that was an impressive amount of damage that ends up coming out. We'll take a moment to let you catch your breath. So as you were asking, where was Samix? Why were they so split up? Well, look at how long Samix actually survives. He gets the redemption through. It's only after the cask, and look, he's still trying to kite it out, still trying to get damage, and then Xerxes charges in. Just annihilates most of Joko's health bar here, and desperately Vitality try and run, but that's a Hecarim, and that Hecarim is angry. Ghost's about to come up, which gives him a lot of extra movement speed after. Didn't need it for the first time. Nice Zhonya's from Nukeduck to be able to stay in place, but unfortunately doesn't have enough damage because he's gone Rod of Ages Zhonya's. He cannot output damage in response to the Unicorns, and the Unicorns continue to take the lead.
Look at the damage in that last team fight. I mean, Xerxes as well as Exile just cleaning up. Unicorns still have Baron buff enabled. They're now in a 4,000 gold lead after being in a 3,000 gold deficit just before the Baron was secured. All of a sudden, Unicorns use the Equalizer as a zoning tool, and they're going to open up Vitality's base. Exile's found Nukeduck. Hourglass not available to him, and that means Nukeduck is down. Unicorns are stacked up. The ultimatum on Samix on the back end, and Cabo's trying to take him down. He's got no damage support. Support staff for Vitality shaking their heads as Unicorns break open the base and take the in-hit.
Unicorns able to kite around the fight, Sam. So much pressure coming from Vitality and Unicorns of Love. It's been a crazy game, the most Unicorns game, but it wasn't from the Unicorns. Vitality throw a curveball. Unicorns catch it with ease and turn the game around.
Unicorns are going to support the TF, and they say, you think that chaos will falter us? They were born and bred, and Unicorns crush Vitality in game 1 of this best of 3.
That was a fun game, and a lot of people say, hey, Vitality were great in the early game and were leading for most of it, and I absolutely agree. Vitality looked fantastic playing around the Shaco early on for Joko. Everything looks to be working for them. Unfortunately, the Baron Call throws it all away. Unicorns get back-to-back fights, and Vitality could not hang on, but what a fun game.
Mind-boggling. I mean, I'm thinking back to what I said at the end. It didn't make a lick of sense. There was no consciousness behind that. Shaco, 5-1 and 2 by 7 minutes in the game. Unfortunately, it didn't equate to any CS advantages or tower advantages, so that just meant UOL waited for an opportunity and used their team fight. That's what we said. Yeah. The comp was built for good team fights, and they showed it.
They just destroyed everybody he ran at on this Hecarim. I mean, with that many jungle bans, I mean, we had like the Ivern off the table, Rengar, Lee Sin, Elise, Graves. He just goes, okay, give me the Hecarim. Give me an old jungler, but a good one. And just walks right through Vitality.
And I think that's important because we were expecting the Rumble to go in the jungle, right? In phase 2 of Picks and Bans, Vitality took the Shen off the table and the Renekton with Rumble locked in. So Vitality knew that Rumble in the jungle was what it was meant to be. Anyways, Unicorns of Love, they started off extremely well this series. Vitality, they gave us a lot of surprises. What do you think about game 1, Shucks?
I love the surprises, Trevor, and we were talking about how we wanted to see different things, and then usually when you want it to happen, it doesn't happen. But Vitality said, no, we're going to give you the Shaco, we're going to have a little bit of fun, and it worked very well for them. So we're going to start by taking a look at the Shaco, because what does a Shaco do in the early game?
He's extremely obnoxious. Everybody that's ever played against a Shaco should know that he's almost guaranteed to invade you. Something that Crepo always experiences in his solo queue games is like, hey, look, this guy's going to steal your red buff and you should be aware of it. And we can see here, you can notice that Joko, the plan is to start topside and then transition over to the red buff. And our expectations were that Xerxes would be able to read this because the idea is, like, you're going to have your red buff stolen.
Yeah, I mean, we see the clear... Like, at this point, I don't think Joko's cheesing because this is actually quite a conventional start. Gromp with the buff into other buff. I think the main flaw here is still VIT Chachi. I mean, you've played enough games in solo queue. You had double deep boards on the other side, so you know he's not bottom right? You know he starts bottom left side. Eventually, this guy's going to end up behind. You can't just blind push as a Rumble versus a Shaco until you wait... At least wait until Xerxes he goes down to the bottom lane and he plays into a Malzahar. And if you're playing Shaco, you only have one dash from Deceive, and then you have Ignite, but you just used it. So you're essentially revealing yourself into a champion who punishes you if you go for close proximity trades like Malzahar. Well, then obviously that lead is thrown, and suddenly Xerxes was super far ahead.
Bit of an oopsie-daisy. I mean, I like the ambition, the idea that, hey, look, I've got a successful gank top, may as well use this early item spike to then transition into a gank bot, but he didn't quite prepare for the possibility of what was to come.
I'm also loving it, a VIT Chachi. It is pure VIT Chachi. He told us, you know, if there's a 50-50, I end up dying, but I get a kill, that's fine.
Yeah, but this was...
But like, this was just, it was like, you're going to pick Shaco against me? Whatever. I know this is coming, but...
Now, here we see the new kind of Vitality where, in essence, this is not a great play, right? Because look at the bottom lane. You have Steelback pushing up, not threatening the enemy top laner who has teleport. So essentially, they're playing 4v3 on the top side. But because they engage so decisively and they have a small lead and they pick their targets well, Vitality actually come out ahead. Steelback went from basing on the bottom lane to now going for that push. And Nuktak also wins a duel here against Exile. This is much more proactive Vitality. Some of these plays we would never see from them in the regular season because macro dictates that you're in this position. You actually base and you go for the cross map to join steal back and dive bottom lane. That is the correct play. But instead, they just went for all these repetitive plays on the top side, and they kept winning out.
It's the fact that they were able to successfully find these windows to try and force a punish, and the fact that they were repeatedly getting themselves ahead in terms of the kills. The fact that they were working as a unit was fantastic to see, and it just brings us back to this question of where was this vitality throughout the regular season?
Yes, please, please, please keep playing like this in summer. You said it there, Steelback being proactive, flashing forward in one of the fights, Kabashark being kind of the old school Kabashark.
I mean, Steelback wasn't as proactive. He was still in that replay like 0-0-0.
Right, it's later, it's later.
Yeah, later
there
in the
was
fight
one flash forward we counted.
Yeah.
So more of that.
More of that.
However, you know, Unicorns of Love, they had a traditional comp, they had a good team fighting comp, and they were able to come back in this game. Were it not also with a little bit of help from Vitality?
I think it's worth praising the Vitality, because the thing you have to highlight is they have a really good composition for not only forcing skirmishes, but for moving around the map as well. They identify that the Rumble is down bottom. They think, sure, he does have teleport, but the fact that they're, again, clean, decisive shot calling, where it's just a matter of the team saying, look, we can force a fight onto Hecarim, they won't be able to collapse in time, let's just go for it. And then they punish Unicorns who cannot find themselves an optimal fight. And you think that off the back of this, oh, Vitality, you're in a prime position to maybe get some good vision control, maybe set up for the Baron, but then that's where things, sort of classic Vitality rears its face once again.
Yeah, I think this is very similar to the first replay, where you do one gank, and because you're running on the high of that success of the first gank, that you just want to keep fighting, but without your major cooldowns, without the enemy team split up, you don't win. Unicorns are running a teamfight comp, and you are on the side of Vitality are running a pick comp, right? So you really want to keep the map open and move in bursts. It's the same way with Shaco on level 1. If you get a successful gank, capitalize by taking your camps in your jungle and then go for the ganks. But we still have to praise Unicorns because they were at a deficit. They found a way to force one good team fight, and that got them the game.
But Vitality is having fun. Like, even in the loss, I said, this is good. They're just team building through official games that don't mean anything to them. So slightly annoying for the Unicorns of Love because they want that first place, of course. And they're like, okay, oh, guys, all right, okay, right. I guess we'll play versus this Gragas support and Shaco and then Camille and TF and everything. But it also shows that they can handle what is thrown at them. And
it just highlights, once again, their strength. We talked about how good their team fighting was. We saw it earlier on in the week versus Splice, and they did it once more. The fact that they're able to find their own windows, they know the strengths of their composition, and they say, right, this is the window that we're waiting for, this is the spike that we're waiting for, let's force a fight here. And the fact that they utilize the Baron buff so easily to close out the game, I think demonstrates how strong of a team the Unicorns are.
Definitely, and it was for us also very entertaining. So more of that we're going to recall, but after the break, we will be back in lane for Game 2 between Vitality and the UOL.
First win à Shani! Wow! First win à Shani!
Good job, Shani! First win!
First win!
Thanks, Joko!
VIT Chachi's flashed already. Red buff and Ignite is ticking away. One more hit. First blood to Shaco.
Guys, look, LeBlanc power. Maybe to be the push. Guys, LeBlanc can come. I can TP 14, TP no flash, TP 14. TP 14, 10 TP.
They're going to try again.
Oh, VIT Chachi decides to stick around this time. Vitality pick up a clean close. Xerxes the target. He gets locked in. The Hextech ultimatum. The barrel splits up UOL, and finally Xerxes goes down. Nuketack will go down to Exile. Not just yet. Hourglass buys some time. Ignite takes down Hilly. Body slam follows forward, and Exile's dropped by Cabo. Say you think that chaos will falter us? They were born and bred, and Unicorns crush Vitality in Game 1 of this best of 3.